This book, Psycho-Cybernetics, is one of the classic self-help books. It's one of the very first self-help books, and it came out in the 60s. And I'm going to show you 9 ideas that he puts in this book that can change your life. Now, I first read this book when I was about 17 years old, and that was back in 1999. And I did not just read this book one time. I read this book several times, and I didn't just read the book. I did the exercises. I did the visualizations. And I'm going to tell you what this book has in it, and I'm going to tell you what is missing. This is going to be beyond Psycho-Cybernetics because this book has so much potential. And since this book came out, there has been so much more discovered that will make it so much greater, that will make such a greater impact in your life. So I'm going to start by going over the 9 ideas that make this book great. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Maxwell Maltz. So he was a plastic surgeon, and he noticed that after people had surgeries, that their confidence would either increase or decrease or stay the same. If someone had a scar on their face and they had surgery and the surgery, didn't go that well, they would still walk out of there after the bandages came off with more confidence. They'd be more outgoing. They'd go after their goals. And then there were other people who had great surgeries. They went perfectly. And in spite of that, they still had low confidence. And this got him thinking, what's going on here? And that's when he realized that the self-image is internal. It's in our minds. And it's in our imagination is what he is saying. And I'm going to tell you more about that because it's not just in your imagination, but that's as far as he was able to take it at the time. So he realized that the self-image is the master key, that we cannot act beyond how we conceive ourselves, how we imagine ourselves, how we believe ourselves to be or to be capable of. So he is teaching you that you tend to act in line with the person you believe yourself to be. And you believe it. It is true. It is who you think you are. So your self-image creates everything around you. It creates your expectations. It creates your behavior. It creates your results. It creates the way people treat you. It creates your entire life. Your entire life is built from your self-image, your self-concept. So what he teaches in the book is that when you change the internal picture, then new behavior becomes possible. He teaches that the self-image is learned, and that also means that it can be changed, it can be revised. So, and that's what happens when the person went in for surgery, and then after that moment, something changed within them. They were able to internalize a new self-image and then begin acting out beyond that in that new form, in that new image of how they conceive themselves. He also talks about how our minds are goal-seeking mechanisms, that mistakes are not just proof you should stop. So he talks about the 2 forms of the goal-seeking mechanisms. One is like a searching form. So he uses the example of trying to find something in the dark. Say you're trying to find a mug in a dark room. You already know in your mind what you're looking for. So you have to have that picture in your mind initially what you're looking for. And now you're searching around the room and you're grabbing things and you're like, nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. And then finally you find it. So those failures of grabbing things that are not the mug are what he's calling feedback. And that can be considered, some people call it negative feedback, or if you add meaning to it, you call it a failure. If you internalize it and make it something about yourself, you call it a failure. He's saying, let's just be more objective about it. We're just going to call it feedback. So you have the target in your mind, you take the action, you get the feedback, you correct, and then you repeat. The other example of the goal-seeking mechanism that he used is like a missile. You shoot the missile, it's going in a straight line, but it starts to weave slightly to the left. Well, that is feedback. You need to course correct. Now you're going off to the right and you course correct and you course correct. And eventually the missile will reach its target. Now, if you choose to interpret every correction as a failure, then again, it's going to affect your behavior. It's going to affect your ability to take action. It's going to affect your mood. He's saying again, just be objective. It's just feedback. You're on your way to your destination. So the mechanism needs a destination and it needs a target. And without the target, there's nothing to steer toward. Your mind is a goal-seeking mechanism. And this loop is all about what Psycho-Cybernetics is about. And I'll tell you how that works with the self-image as well when coming up here. So the imagination gives the mind a target. The imagination is how you see your target, how you create your goals. So we do this all the time subconsciously. And sometimes our imagination can work against us. When we're not being conscious, when we're just driving to work and we're imagining our boss being upset, we are using our goal-seeking mechanism as a failure mechanism. So when we are letting our mind drift onto various subjects or worst-case scenarios or whatever it is, this is what's causing our failures. This is where our mind is actually creating those instances. He says, use your mind, use your imagination for your best case scenario, for your ideal self. So mental rehearsal lets you practice the identity and behavior before the moment arrives. He teaches you to record your voice and to relax your entire body. And when your body is completely relaxed, then start to imagine, then start to picture how you want yourself to behave and the outcome that you want to have. So you see it, you picture the actual scene, you feel it, and then you repeat it. And you do this every single day. And I have done this and it does work. There's a lot more to this, though. There's a lot more than just rehearsing over and over, and I'll get into that in a bit. Worry is also mental rehearsal, but it's just aimed at the wrong target. He doesn't mention this in the book, but the mental rehearsal can be visual, and it can be auditory, and it can be in a sense of feeling. You're rehearsing how you're going to feel in the future. So this is where neurolinguistic programming or NLP can start to connect with psycho-cybernetics. So we're starting to expand a little bit beyond what Maxwell Maltz taught in the book. So the mental rehearsal can show up in those 3 different modalities, not just visually. Now there's another part where the imagination falls short. So this person in the image is picturing himself speaking confidently, and he can imagine that over and over and over again. But it will take a very long time for him to connect that image of himself and actually internalize it and actually begin to own that ability. It's out there in his imagination, and he needs to get it to become him, and he needs to start to believe it and to own it and to believe that he has that within himself. So this is where the book starts to fall short. So the process to really internalize those traits are a little more extensive, a little more in depth, and I walk people through the process in my group coaching. Next, he talks about de-hypnotizing yourself from false beliefs. And this is a really great metaphor. So he is saying you are already hypnotized. When a person is hypnotized, they believe it. They believe whatever they've been hypnotized to believe that it is true. So if you've been hypnotized to think that you're Michael Jackson or Justin Bieber, you will literally believe that that is true. And that's why he's saying you need to de-hypnotize yourself from the false beliefs. The false beliefs feel real. They feel like that is what is. So a belief becomes limiting when you stop seeing it as a belief and start seeing it as a fact. Well, when you start seeing a limiting belief as a fact, but when you start to see a belief that doesn't limit you as true, then you begin to gain freedom. Then you begin to internalize that. So you can ask the questions, is this actually true? Where did I learn this? What evidence contradicts it? This is the really powerful point he makes in the book is start looking for evidence. Start looking, question your beliefs and find evidence to the contrary. And am I turning one failure into an identity? So like those course corrections with the missile, are you judging yourself? Are you saying this means I'm a failure? And the goal is not just fake positivity. It's removing the false belief. Now, something you won't get from the book is someone to help you identify your limiting beliefs and then walk you through this process to break those limiting beliefs. And that's another thing that I do in my coaching program. I take people through specific processes that took me decades to learn and decades to master and help people to break these beliefs. In the book here, he's talking about micromanaging the automatic mechanism because the mechanism is automatic. So once you start doing the mental rehearsal over and over again, by trying harder, you mess up the process. You mess up the subconscious success. It's like trying to shoot a basketball in like a very stiff way, or when you're playing pool, you might be aiming too hard. He talks about why it's really important to relax and let the subconscious mind take over. Let it do its thing. It knows what it's doing. If you've rehearsed it enough, your mind will know what to do. One of the things I forgot to mention from the book about imagination is the basketball. So this is where I first heard about this basketball study where they had people practicing basketball every day for 15 minutes a day, and then other people just rehearsing in their imaginations, shooting a basketball at a net and correcting its course for 15 minutes a day. And both of those groups improved almost equally. I think the imagination group was 24% and the actual group improved by 25%, something like that. But it just goes to show how powerful mental rehearsal is. Now, there's another key to this mental rehearsal because sometimes when we think of doing things that are scary, an emotion will come up right away and then we'll avoid thinking about that action. I teach people how to get over those uncomfortable emotions while they're imagining them so that they can actually feel confident and imagine those same actions. Next, he talks about building the success personality. So success is a set of trainable qualities. It's not a personality that you're born with. So sense of direction. This is where the goals come in. This is where purpose comes in. Understanding, courage, pushing yourself. Charity. So this is where service comes in. This is where contribution comes in. And this is a great way to improve your mood and how you feel about yourself. Esteem, self-confidence, and self-acceptance. So these are all just different ways of saying, of learning how to like yourself, love yourself, and be okay with yourself. And this is another thing that we talk about in my coaching program is teaching you how to accept yourself and love yourself. We meet every week. You have so much ability. I totally believe that every single person has gifts. They have much more within themselves if they could just unlock their authenticity, if they could just stop people pleasing, if they could just let go of those limiting beliefs and transcend those limiting beliefs and see themselves for who they truly are. That's what I'm here to do. And that's what I love doing. So let's go. The success personality gives the mechanism a target. So this is where you're imagining yourself. The courage supplies movement. Self-acceptance keeps mistakes from becoming your identity. Success becomes more likely when your inner operating system supports movement rather than self-protection. So this is just action. All this is your ability to take action and to minimize focus on the negative feedback. It's one of the main points from the book is to ignore the negative feedback. So every time you pick up that mug in the dark and it's the wrong one, forget it and keep focusing on the goal. Every time the missile's going in its purposeful direction and it goes off track, forget the negative feedback and focus on the goal. Use your mind, use your success mechanism, use your goal-seeking device, which is your mind. Okay, so then there's the failure mechanism. Frustration, aggressiveness, insecurity, loneliness, uncertainty, resentment, emptiness. So these are just signals. If you look at them, if you start to identify with these and say, I'm an angry person, you're creating that. You're beginning to internalize that. And now that becomes your identity. And you're going to continue to act on that and become that. So just notice it as a signal. Just see it as a warning sign. It's not who you are. So keep your mind on the target and just realize something needs to be changed. Something needs correcting. Maybe it's the goal that needs changing. Maybe it's the way you see yourself that needs changing. Maybe it's changing the way you see others that needs to change. Maybe you need more service and contribution. You need a greater purpose. These are all things I help people do as a coach. All right, let's talk about those emotional scars. So as a plastic surgeon, he took this as a metaphor and saying that our past can create emotional scars. So the armor that protects you can become a prison. So the scar tissue that's covering it up now. Past hurt can create defensive habits that block new experience. So his prescription is forgiveness. Stop old injuries from controlling the present. This is where we are seeing others in a negative viewpoint, and that is going to hold us back. There is something even greater than forgiveness, and I'll get into that after. Self-acceptance separates your worth from your mistakes. So accepting yourself. So this is where shame becomes a limiting belief. If we live in shame, it's going to be very difficult for us to take action, to talk to people, to do the things we love to do. And releasing that shame becomes really important. Less self-monitoring allows your natural personality to return. So this is not really self-monitoring. He's talking about being self-conscious. It's actually others conscious, where we are monitoring the reactions of others and trying to fit ourselves into a mold that will keep us safe. This is the people-pleasing personality where we think we need to act a certain way to feel safe. So all of this past trauma, this is our baggage, and this is something that pulls us down. There's two things that can stop us from reaching our potential. All of our past hurt and all of our past baggage pulling us down, and then not seeing our higher self, our higher abilities, and lifting us up. So by clearing the baggage and then putting your mind and owning those higher level traits or the parts of yourself that are who you would really love to be, that is how you begin to elevate yourself. So this is where the book really could be expanded, working on all that stuff from the past. And this is where I've found one of the most powerful tools called the DeMartini method. And this is one of the most powerful tools for clearing that baggage. And if you're interested in learning more about that, then definitely check out my coaching program. So let's put it all together now. You've got your self-image. Who do I believe I am? And this is who you truly believe you are. So connecting the outer imagined self and really internalizing that, that's the challenge this book is trying to achieve. The target, what are you moving towards? Who do you want to become? What do you want to have? What do you want to do? Who do you want to be? Beginning to imagine that, using your mind to focus on what you want and not using worry to imagine the things that you don't want. So keeping that rehearsed in your mind, keeping that picture in your mind, and then begin taking action. This is where the emotions start to arise that you might need help releasing. So as you begin to take action, this is where things become scary, but using that mental rehearsal is going to help you to act. And this is where a lot of people get stuck in the action phase. They might do lots of mental rehearsal, but not be able to push past those negative emotions. So that's what I can help people with. And then the feedback. So you take action. You actually did it. You did something and it flopped. All right. What does that mean? Does it mean you're a failure, or does it just mean that you need to change your focus, that you need to practice more? What did you learn from the failure? What is the feedback? And be careful how you interpret it. Be careful what meaning you give it. Maybe there's another explanation. So look for other explanations to the failure, the quote unquote failure. And then correct it. Find a new way, a new action, a new direction, and don't attack yourself. And remember to do this while being relaxed. Remember to do this in a positive state of mind. So when you're imagining, let yourself feel it. So he talks about that winning feeling in the book. So really let yourself feel it and embody that emotion. And I notice this when I coach people as well. When I help them change who they're being, then they really embody it, and I allow them to resonate with that. And then they can basically just start becoming that from that point on. And that's really where the transformation happens. Give yourself a future worth moving towards. So this is just obvious, general, great advice is just focus on what you want. What's your dream? Really think about it. What's your dream? Do people even dare to dream? How many people dare to dream? How many people dare to live their life the way they want to live their life? Not trying to live up to other people's expectations, not living the life others want from them, and living a life true to themselves. This is my community where we do weekly coaching, and I teach you guys everything that I've learned in the last 20 years. So this is for people who are really serious about growth. They're really serious about elevating their confidence, meeting their potential, taking on greater challenges, overcoming those limiting beliefs. This is where we really get down and we do the work. And it's designed for growth. And I get in there, I help you identify your limiting beliefs. I help you identify those negative perceptions of yourself, of others, of the world. I help you to own those higher traits, own the parts of yourself that you don't think you have. I use everything that I have learned over the past 20 years to help you to grow. I take you through specific processes so that you can create change in the shortest period of time possible. So you don't have to read more books and continue trying more things. I've done the trial and error since 1999. I'm 45 years old. I have a lot of life experience. I can show you what works and what doesn't work. It's $97 a month. You get 4 sessions, and I take you through specific processes. You will feel changes after every single meeting. And if you're still not happy, after 30 days, I'm happy to return your $97. You have more potential than you can recognize. You have blind spots that I'm going to help you to uncover. You'll enjoy being a part of the community where we all help each other to grow and expand and reach our potential. The link is in the description. Check it out. Give it a try. If you're serious about growing, if you're serious about reaching your potential, I know you'll love it. I know you'll enjoy it. I'll see you on the inside.